All right, good evening, everyone. So you are all welcome to Digital Z Hub, an online platform where we teach students across different tech programs like cybersecurity, data analytics, web development, and other trending tech skills. So this section is data analytics section. We just concluded data analysis with Excel statistical functions ranging from general analysis to intermediate analysis, that is analysis that requires a single criteria, and analysis that require multiple criteria. And I told us that in the next section, which is this section, we shall be looking at a different topic which falls under the cell advanced function. So we are looking at how to perform analysis with conditional formatting. How to perform analysis with conditional formatting. So let's look at the simple definition of what conditional formatting as one of the advanced functions in Excel is all about. So like I always tell us, we are not just looking at the application of this function from the general application. We are looking at them from the angle of analysts. So for example, as a data analyst, how will you use conditional formatting to perform analysis on any data you are given? So that is actually our motive, not just learning it for learning's sake. We should be able to look at a given data and see analysis that can be performed with the conditional formatting. So let's start with the definition. What is conditional formatting? I just feel before we look at the conditional formatting, let us understand what is formatting generally in data processing or handling data. So just like the data I have on the screen, if you are asked to format it, what it means is to fine-tune. What it means is to improve the appearance of the data. What it means is for you to probably restructure the data. So that is what formatting means. Now, for the command we are looking at is conditional formatting. So which means data transformation that requires criteria. So it's just like you saying that you want to highlight all the values. So I'm going to use this data. This is sales inventory, which I believe we are all conversant with. So let's assume that you are asked for certain reason, which we are going to probably identify fully as we proceed. Supposing you are given a data set like this, and for one reason or the other, or you are asked to identify uniquely all the transaction where sales channel is equals to online, without you manually identifying them and probably assigning certain appearance just for identification purpose, or just for us to be able to differentiate them from other record within this same data set. So that is where conditional formatting comes in. Or it can also be that think we have it here. Yeah, we have it. So an organization may want to highlight or give a certain transaction pertaining to a particular date, different appearance. So all these, there are analysis angle to all this. So these are just like analysis question. So for example, somebody want to know how many transactions were performed on the 6th of that is let's say June 20, 2014. So the company wants to know how many transactions you performed that particular day. So instead of you going through the data, counting them one after the other, you can simply use conditional formatting to uniquely identify them, and then you now attach filter. So you now filter by whatever color you must have used to differentiate those values. So let's look at the definition properly. I only wanted us to get the picture of what we as data analysts, we can actually do with this function. So conditional formatting in Excel is a feature or function used to automatically format cells based on specific rules. So the key word there is what? Which rule are you using to format the data? And each of these rule programming on the data are expected to meet certain analysis criteria. All right, so let's quickly look at some of the benefits of conditional formatting. Number one, it helps us to detect trend. So I'm looking at it from the angle of data analytics now, or as a data analyst. Why should I use conditional formatting to perform analysis? I said, number one, it helps us to detect trend. Number two, it helps us to identify high and low values. All of this we are going to see them playing out when we get to the practical aspect. Now, another benefit of analyzing data with conditional formatting is that it helps us to highlight important records. So that can be traced to some of the explanation I've given. Then it can also help us to improve data visualization. So there are a whole lot of benefits attached to the usage of conditional formatting, particularly in Excel. So we are going to start with using a single criteria to format certain segments or aspects of our data. So we are going to look at some analysis tasks, and then we'll see how we can answer those analysis questions with the conditional formatting. So looking at this 6 inventory data, I am asked, so our first question is, I think, let me see if I can write the question in a different sheet. So our first question, which is Q1, is, let me highlight this and mesh them together as usual. So is format all the record, format all the record, all the records where says channel is online. So let's assume that this is your analysis task. Now, the main question is not here. This is just like the question that will lead to the main question. So most time, that is what we achieve with the conditional formatting. Because the main question will be, or I can classify that as sub-question, that I can only find out after I have applied the first question, which says what? We should format or give certain or unique appearance to all the records where sales channel is online. Now, the next part of that question, which will form part of your of the insights you are going to present, that will help the organization to make that smart decision, is going to be how many of them. Because one thing is to distinguish them from other. One thing is to use a format to differentiate them from other. Another thing is for you to know how many of them. And that is where we are going to link it with filter. That is, once the conditional formatting has helped us to uniquely identify them, then we can now tell filter that filter by whatever format we must have assigned. So how do we achieve that? Let's answer the question together. So our first step is to highlight the entire data set, excluding the header. Please do not include the headers when you are selecting. So I'll start with the first record and then take everything both horizontally and vertically. So once you have highlighted your data, the next step is for you to go to Home tab and click on Conditional Formatting. Now, the moment you click on the function, we are given different, let's say, classes or categories. Can you still hear me, please? Somebody should confirm before I proceed. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. So like I was saying, I highlighted only the body section of the data set. Now, after you have done that, you go to Home tab and select Conditional Formatting. So I was talking about different category of what? Formatting. So we have the presets, which means the already made condition, with the assumption that they might align with the kind of analysis tasks we are carrying out. So I'm not going to focus on these presets. Probably I will end with them, because applying these presets, they are very simple. They shouldn't even be your priority, because everybody can use them, because these are already programmed rules that can fit into different analysis tasks. But the one that is more taxing is how you can define your rule. So let's assume that the question you are to answer does not align with any of these predefined rules. How do you program it? That should be our first priority. And which means that I want to first of all show us how you can define your conditional formatting rules. So if we are going that way, remember we have identified our task. The task is that within the whole of this data set, all the record where sales channel is equals to online, we want to give them a different format. And we are going somewhere. At the end of the day, after we have differentiated them from other, we would like to know how many of them do we have in this data set that will help us to probably write out our observation that will help that organization to make the right decision. So since we are defining our rule ourselves, so we have to go to conditional formatting and then navigate to what? New rule. Because all these ones, they are classified as existing rule or preset rule. Like I said, I'll come back to them. So click on new rule. Now, the moment you click on new rule, now you have access to some of these what? Preset rules. But what we are focusing on is the last one that says use a formula to determine which cell to format. So the moment I click on this option, Excel provides me a text box. In other words, since you are asking or since you want to construct your formatting rule, then here is a box for you to write your function. Now, looking at that question, we have to identify the variables that are involved and the criteria. The criteria value here is online. And the variable that are involved or the arguments that are involved is what? The sales channel. So which means the first thing I'm going to do is to select the first cell under where the criteria value is. So I'll click here. Now, the reason why I don't have to highlight everything, because remember that when we started, we have highlighted the whole record. So selecting just one cell, it mustn't be that that cell you are selecting correspond with your criteria value, which is what? Online. Whether it is online you are having here or another value, just ensure that you are selecting the first cell, because what you are representing with this cell selection is the total argument, the cell range. So you are only acknowledging that the criteria that will be used to format certain record can only be what? Traced here. That is under this column. But we are going to make it what? Absolute. While the other criteria, that is what? Searching. Okay, let me put it this way. We are going to lock the column, which means we are making the column absolute what? Argument. And then we will leave the row open, which means that we are making the row dynamic. So that is what we are simply saying. Just give me a few minutes. Let me. Okay, so that is what we are simply saying. Now, how do we denote that? How do we tell Excel that a particular column should be absolute and some rows should be dynamic? Is by removing and adding the dollar sign. So whenever you call a cell argument and you have dollar sign attached to the argument, that is referred to as absolute, which means that as we are having $D, it means we are saying that the whole of this column is locked. And why are we locking it? Because we want to restrict the function that you cannot search for online outside this column, which is right. But looking at the particular row that we selected, we cannot restrict the function from searching beyond this first row. So we need to give the function privilege to what? To search across other row. Why? Because there might be what? Online in other row, but the function shouldn't search outside the column. So how do we communicate that? We'll simply remove the dollar sign from the two. So which means that you have opened up what? The rows. And which also means that the function can search across all the row, but it cannot search beyond what? The D column. So that is just to specify your range. Then you will now define the criteria. You equate it to what? Or you assign it to a criteria. So what is the criteria? The criteria is what? Where the value is online. So we are not referencing it from the data set. If not, I would have just come here and click like this, which is also correct. But I discovered that the one I want to use is more accurate. That is, I will capture it as a string, and then I will type it just the way it is in the data set. Remember that the first letter is the online, the first letter is capital letter. So you make sure that you follow it the way it is. Oh, sorry, this is not right. Okay, so you follow it exactly the way it is in the data set. So what I'm saying, remember that we are still on using a single criteria. So once we have mastered this, then we can now advance to multiple criteria. Now, once you have defined your criteria, you can see that at the moment it's telling us that no format set. So you can now click on format, and that will prompt you another dialog box where you can determine the appearance. So what is the format? All the rows where we have online, I want them to be formatted with what? Probably red background color. And then for text color, I want them to, the right up should be white. Let's say, for example, we are going with this. If you also want to improve the size, if it's active, fine. Or you want to make them bolder, you can do that. And then click OK. So which means that we have just set a format to this criteria if it's met. Now you can click OK. So the moment you click OK, you can see that all the records where sales channel is equals to online have been automatically formatted with what? That specification. So this is a typical example of what I mean by conditional formatting. Why are some value exempted? Because they do not meet the condition. Now, like I told us, this is not the final, this is not actually the final analysis. So once you have been able to succeed in identifying them with certain appearance, so your next line of action should be, okay, how many of them do we have? Because there's a reason why you identify them. You will probably want to easily what? Isolate them from other, or you want to even count how many of them. So like I was telling us, at this point, you connect filter, you bring in filter. So filter will do the rest. So how do we must have been taught how to use filter. So you click on the data. Remember, you go to a data tab and then you click on your filter. So now I want to see only rows where the background color is red. So I can use any of this filter command. Why? Because the red background color cut across all the what? The fields. So I can take it here and say what? Filter by color, where color is equal to red. So you can see that now I'm able to know exactly the number of what online record in this data. So if I want to know, remember that you can actually select the value in one column. I can just, select all the value I have here, and then automatically you should be able to find the number displayed on your taskbar. So you can see it here. So there are what? 50 of them. So in your report, you can go and write it down. Probably this is what you don't want to go through that count if that we have learned. So you just use conditional formatting to identify them, and then you highlight whatever you have after you have filtered, and then write your observation. And if, for example, the company want to know the total profit generated from this sales channel option. Then if you also highlight everything, you also get the what? The average analysis, and you also get the summation analysis. So instead of you involving all those sum if, count if it is a kind of personal analysis where you are to present your finding without your technical activities, then you can use method like this to get some of the values. So I'm going to give us 5 minutes for those that are joining or probably are with their laptop to try it and get back to me before we proceed. And then in case you also have a question while we are waiting for that 5 minutes, you can also ask.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that is how to use
I'm here.
that is how to use single criteria. But the criteria we use is string criteria. So let's try one more example. But this time around we use a threshold value. So let's say our analysis question is.
Sir, I cannot hear you.
Are you serious? Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me? I think it should be from your end. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me now? Please, somebody should confirm.
I can hear you now clearly.
Okay. All right. So I was saying that was the application of single criteria, and that criteria was string. That is, we use tests as a criteria for the conditional formatting. So supposing we are given a task that has to do with using a threshold value. So let's answer one more question on that before we move to double criteria. So let's assume that our analysis question is we are to format our profits within a certain range. So let me off this filter for now, since I've returned everything. Let me take it off. So our analysis task is to format total profit probably greater than a particular value. Let me see if I can go back and look at some of the values. So our analysis task is format total profit greater than 700,000. Formats, let me write it down. So format, let's use capital letter. Format total profit greater than 700,000 with blue background color and let's say white text color. So let's assume this is the task given to us. So remember the procedures. The first thing is for us to highlight only the body section of the entire data set. Don't forget the header should not be included. So I'll start with the first record horizontally and then you highlight it also vertically, just like the way we have been selecting data all this while. So that's your first step. Now, second step is for us to go to Home tab, then select conditional formatting, then choose new rules, because we are creating the rule for our conditional formatting. Now, remember the question. The question is where to format all the total profit value greater than 700,000. So we are using the last option because that is the option that gives us the privilege of constructing our own function. And then the next thing is for you to highlight the arguments, the range, the cell range, where you probably have those values you are referring to. So which means that I'll select the first cell under total profit. And that cell selection covers what? The selection of all the values under what? That column. Now remember, we talk about absolute argument and dynamic argument. So which means that we are going to tell Microsoft Excel that it should not search for any value greater than 700,000 beyond or outside this column. That is, the search must be done within this column. So that is why we are going to leave the $ attached to what? Letter N. Now, if I go ahead like this, by leaving that $ in front of 2, we are also telling Excel that you should not also search for any other value greater than 700,000 beyond this row. Meanwhile, we can see it here, we can have it in other places. So the way we are going to tell Excel that, okay, we are leaving the row as is open while we lock up what? The column, is by removing the $ from the 2, which means that the row is dynamic while the column is fixed or absolute. Now, equal sign, which means you now want to define the criteria for the formatting. And the criteria is where a value here is greater than 700,000. So which means that I'm not going to use the equal sign. I'm going to use the greater than operator sign. Then I'll put the value here. I don't need to wrap the value in a string because these are numbers, just like the same way we know it to be in pure programming. Now, currently it's telling us that there is no format defined for value that will meet this criteria. So you click on format, and then you go to field and select what? The blue that you mentioned, which is going to be the background color of any value that meets this criteria. And then we also said that the text color should be white. So I go to font and then come to automatic and then choose the white text color. Now you click OK, then we should be able to see the format here. So now after this, you click OK. So you can see that you have only that format on values under total profit greater than what? 700. The one 700,000 rather. So now, like I told us, the main analysis is that we want to know how many of them. That is actually our primary what? Target. So we just want to, okay, let's identify them first before we can what? Filter them out. So at this point, like I told us when we apply the first one, you go to home and data and activate your filter command. So once I activate my filter command, it means that if I want to look only if I want to narrow the entire entries to only the entry that meets that criteria, then I can use any of this filter command. And then I select what? By color, and then I choose this. So right now I have only entry where total profit is greater than 700,000. I hope that is clear. So I also give us 5 minutes to replicate the same thing before we look at 2 criteria. Because all these ones that we have done, we are simply using just 1 criteria. So you can start now. We are using a value threshold instead of string.
Okay, done, sir.
Hello? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I'm done.
Okay, Mrs. Ahmed, you are just joining. Though what we did before is what I just explained now, so I don't think you should be lost. However, probably you get the video to go through everything. So I just want to confirm if Mrs. Ahmed is working. If she's not working, then I will just continue.
I am watching with my phone, so I'm not working with my laptop.
Okay, so
Yeah, thank you.
let's hope that when you get the video, you try and apply everything. Okay, so now let's proceed to 2 criteria. So let's expand the conditional formatting scope beyond 1 criteria. So let's go back to, let's look at, let me return everything first. Let me return everything. You go to that particular place where you apply the condition for the filtering, and then you select what? All, click OK. That will return the entire record. Now, let's look at the analysis tasks that will involve 2 criteria. So let's go back to where we are compiling our questions. So let's look at question 3. So question 3 is going to be, let me also merge this. Question 3 is highlights or formats. Formats, let me try and shorten the question. Format record where item type, let me check, this is the data where I have item type. Yes, good. Where item types, formats, where item type is baby food. Baby food. And so we are increasing the criteria now, and total profit. And total profit is less than 700,000. So let's assume this is a task. So this is 2 criteria. 2 criteria. So going back to the data, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to clear some of these formats, and that will take us to how we can delete the format and how we can even manage the format. To manage your conditional formatting, in other words, to view, to see the list of all the conditions you have programmed on your data, so just click on that same, go to Home tab, click on Conditional Formatting, then select Manage Rules, and that will give you a dialog box stating all the conditions you have used. So I want to remove all this. So I can just mark them and select what? Delete. I just want the data to come back to the initial state so that we can see the condition we want to apply right now. So let me also turn off the filter. Okay. So I have the entire body section of my data highlighted. Now, to answer that double or two criteria conditional formatting, we are going through the same step. Go to Home, select Conditional Formatting, select what? New Rule. Now we are going with this option again. Now the only difference is that we will now use a function called AND. We use a function called AND. So AND is used where your formatting condition exceeds 1. There's no limits. You can use this for up to, if you like, 100 conditions, so long it's still important to you. So the only thing is that you start with the equal sign, and then you first of all type the and then you open the bracket. So the first criteria, according to that question, is we are to format where records are equals to what? Baby, where item type is equals to baby food. That is the first criteria. So which means that I'll start by selecting the range of that criteria first, and then the same thing that we did, I will leave the rows open while I face the what? The column. Then equals to, then I will type the first criteria value, which is baby food. And then remember, like I told us, it must be typed the way it is. You can see baby food there. The B starts with capital letter. So you have to follow it that way, baby food. And then there is space between it. So the next one, I'm going to try an option and see, because though I've tried both of them, I discovered that sometimes that option is not accurate. So now we have we have captured the range and the criteria for the first condition. Then you put a comma. Then the second criteria says where total profit is less than 700,000. So once you have added your comma, you pick the first one also. In this case, pick the first one also, and then you also make the row dynamic by removing the dollar sign. And then remember, we are using different operator now, which is less than, and then we state our criteria value, which is less than 700,000. Then we can now go for the formatting. But before that, remember that we have not closed this bracket. We have not closed this bracket. So I am going to say, just close the bracket and then go for formatting. So how do you want them to look like, the value that we made the criteria? So let me just give them this color as a background color, and then for font, let me choose something like this, and then click OK. So we have the format, and then I click. So you can see that we have been able to identify only let's trace. This is how you confirm. You start from the first one. That particular row that is highlighted, by the time you trace it to item type, is it baby food? Yes. And then you trace it also. I want to check the second condition. By the time you trace it to total profit, you also check whether the value there is less than 700,000, which is what? Yes, which means that our command is working perfectly. I hope that is understood, please. So I also,
Yes, sir.
so let me also give us 3 to 4 minutes.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, so 3 minutes to try it for those that are trying before we look at. We'll answer one more question. Maybe we'll do for 3 criteria. And then this time around, I'll try to use the cell referencing. Let's see how accurate that will be. So once you have done it, kindly notify me so that I can continue. All right, so like I said, let's answer one more question using 2 or more criteria, and then we'll then have one more to take before we look at those templates, those presets that I skipped when I started. So now let's look at this data again. Now, let's say the task is we are to format where, let me look at different value. Okay. So we are to format where sales channel is offline and order of priority is H, where units sold probably is greater than 400. So let's go and write it down so that it will not confuse us. So that will be the 4th task. So here, format, somebody can remind me again. Format where sales channel, okay? Where sales
channel is offline.
Good. Sales channel is offline.
Then the priority.
Good. And priority is what? Is H, right?
Is H, yes.
It's H. Then
Okay.
I think
the units sold.
And what? Good. Units.
The unit sold.
Units sold is what? Greater. Is it greater than? Okay, let's just use anyone. Let's say greater than 400.
Okay.
So this is 3 good criteria. 3 good criteria. So let's see how. And I'm going to use for the first 2, I'm going to use cell referencing. While the other one, I will manually write the value. So remember the step again. We have to select only the body section of our data. Headers shouldn't be included. Take note of that too. Now, the next thing is for me to look at the first criteria. I think the first criteria is sales channel. So I'll pick the first value, the first cell. It doesn't matter what is there, whether it's offline or so. I'm not picking here because it's showing offline. So even if here is online, you have to pick the first one because we're only using, after this, we have to go and we have to activate the function first before we do the selection. So after this, we go to Home tab, then pick this first, then select New Row, then pick the last option. Good. So here, we have to pick the first cell under what? Where the first criteria value is, and then we'll also leave the rows dynamic while we fix the column. Then remember that we cannot even go this way because we are formatting with more than 1 criteria, so we have to bring in our AND. Once your formatting criteria exceed 1, you must use AND. So now I can go for the range selection, which is this, and then make the row dynamic while I leave the column fixed. Then equals to now, like I told us, I want to use cell referencing, which is an alternative method, but most times it's not always accurate. That is why, it depends on the data anyway, but I just want to use so that you understand that logic as well. Now, the other time I have to open a string and then type the value the way it is in the data set. But if I am referencing it from the data, it means I am acknowledging that what I will have typed is already typed in the data. So let me call it from anywhere. So in this case, it must not be the first one, so long the spelling is the same. So I can just pick this. Now, if you are referencing like this, you don't need to consider absolute and dynamic, please. This is the only place where you are defining the range. That is where you prioritize absolute and dynamic. This one is just to represent your criteria. So you don't have to remove the dollar from it. Then you put a comma. So the second part of that question is order of priority equals to H. So I'll pick the value, the range, then I remove the dollar sign, and then put equals to, and then I will also reference the criteria value from the data set, which could be selection of any of the H. Then, comma, then the last part of it, which is the third criteria, is where units sold is greater than 400. So these are the values under units sold. Let me see whether I have value greater than 400. I may need to change it because the values I have here, they are very high. So let's say value greater than 700. Is this 700 or 4,000? This is 4,000. Okay, let's say value greater than 7,000. They are the only values we want to consider. So remember that I will have to pick the range first and then also remove the dollar sign. Also remove the dollar sign. I don't know if I added something. No, I hope I'm still on point. It's like, where did I? I'm just wondering where I have that plus because I just pressed something. Oh God. Okay, let me see if I can just take it to. This is the range, the criteria. The second range, the criteria. Okay, so let me just start from the third range, which is this. There. So I wanted to just remove the dollar sign from it. And then greater than, this one you cannot pick it from the data. So you have to add it there. So greater than, I think we said 700, no, sorry, 7,000. Now I can go and define my formats. How do I want that to look? Okay, so let's say the background color should be this, while the text color can be, let's say white. No, white is not going to go. Let's say the text color should be black. I think black will go with that. So I click OK. Okay, good, it can go. So by the time I apply it, you can see that we have seen the outcome. Now, we have to confirm the three criteria that we use, please. So let's start with the first one. So if I trace just one of these, if I trace it to where I mentioned the first criteria, is it selecting, remember it was offline. Was it offline and selected or online? If somebody should remind me. Offline, right? So yes. you can see that is the reason why I don't use this at times. So which means that you stick to that other method where you have to be acknowledging the criteria yourself instead of picking them from the data.
Sir, I have a question, please.
Okay, your question.
Could it also be because maybe you selected black to highlight in black? Maybe it's within the other text or something.
No. That is not it. No, it's
okay,
not it. It's not it. It's
all
not
right.
it. So now I just taught us how to manage your rules. So since this rule is wrong, we have to quickly remove it. So you go back to your conditional formatting, select manage rule. Then this is the rule that is wrong. So you select it, and then you can also edit it. I think, let me go back and edit it instead of deleting it. Let me go back and edit it to the first method. So how do you edit your rule? Because at times you can define rules probably with certain appearance. And if they are conflicting, there might be need for you to go and adjust. So how do you adjust? You come back to the same place. Instead of selecting delete, you click on what? Edit rule. In fact, the entire process, if you don't want to click on that new rule from that list, you can even come here straight and start from scratch here. So let's use this, then it will return us the formula. So I will just clear everything I have here. Let's go with the normal way we are doing it. Just to be sure. So the first range is 6 channel, and then I'll remove the dollar sign, then equals to, so I'm not referencing from the data now, equals to offline the way it is in your data set, offline, then you also the comma. The second range is order of priority, so I'll pick the second range. Then also remove the dollar sign from the row, and then equals to, here equals to H, equals to H. Then the third rule is where units sold is greater than, I think we later change it, greater than 7,000. Greater than 7,000. So I'll start with that first and then remove it. Then I'll use my greater than sign and then indicate the criteria, which is, so ensure that the bracket open is closed. Then I just want to adopt the same format that I gave the other time. So there's no point of me going through this. I will just select this and then click on apply and okay. Now let's go and confirm then whether we are correct. So we have offline here, which means the first criteria is confirmed. We have H here, which means the second criteria is confirmed. So let's check for the third criteria, greater than what? 7,000. Perfect. So all the value less than 7,000, they are not selected. So you can work with the same method that I'm using. So don't bother using that cell referencing. Like I told us before that I've confirmed it that most time it doesn't give us accurate. So I believe that is clear. So you can increase the number of your criteria. All you need is to put comma, capture the range criteria, comma, capture the range criteria. I hope that is taken. Let's look at the last rule I want to define, which is also.
Before you proceed, though,
Okay.
this referencing, it worked for me.
Okay, that is good. That, I say that based on the data, sometimes it doesn't. So now you have two different methods. If it works for you, so in case you are using a data set where it's not working, you fall back to this. This one has never failed. It's that one that normally fails. Thank God that you see that I also tried it, but it didn't work for me. Okay, so if we don't have any question, that will now look at we look at how to format with dates, which is also very, very important. Very important. You may want to know, or you may want to find out how many transactions were performed in a particular date. And you don't want to count manually. So you can first of all identify them with a format and then you filter. So we are going to pick one of the dates. Now, when using this one, you have to understand the global date format. The global database date format is YY, that is a year, month, and day. That is YY, MM, DD. YY, that is 3Y, MM, DD. Now, if I ask us now, our date is not in that format. Instead, we are having something like day, month, and year. Now, at times, it may not recognize it, except you reconfigure it back to the standard. So I'll quickly start by showing us how you can reset your date format to that global format before we apply this. Now, all I need to do is to select the column that is involved like this. Now, this is not what you can actually do at times if it has not been programmed before from the Excel. You may need to go to your window. But let me check here first whether I'll be able to find it here. So by the time after highlighting the entire date column, then you click here, then go to more number formats, and then you go to dates. Now, good, because I have done it before. That is why it's here. You might not see it here. So I don't think, let me show us how I did it, that I'm able to have this. In my own case now, I don't need to go through that process. I will just automatically apply it. But even after applying it there, it's still not giving me that appearance. So how do you configure it from your operating system? You go to the Start button, or you can just go straight by typing Control Panel. So just make sure that you are careful when you are going to this domain. Don't turn on what you do not understand, because you might end up destroying your system. So once we get to the Control Panel, then we are talking about formatting. So I'll click on Number Format. And that will prompt me this dialog box. I'll go to, I'm already seeing it here. Look at it here, short date, Y. So let's assume that your own system, by the time you come here, you meet this. All you need to do is just to change it to this, and then you apply, and then you click what? Okay. Then you can now go back and see if the format have taken place. Now, the format have not taken place, but it's possible that I may be working with that format at the background. So let's apply the command first and see if it's going to work like this. But you have to take note of that format, because that is how we are going to enter it. So what is the criteria now? The criteria this time around, which is our fifth task, our criteria is format, format records So let me just shorten it here, equals to, let me highlight that particular date. So I'll pick one of the dates. So let's say I'm working with this, that is 2/4/2015. Somebody should take note of that. That is 2/4/2015. So let's assume that I want to identify, or I want to format any record that meets this criteria. So this is conditional formatting using date function. So that is exactly what we are looking at. How do we use dates? Because it's different from other. So the same process, I have to select the entire record, excluding the header. I keep singing it because if you do not know that, you might be getting error. So once you have done that, the next step is for you to go to home again. In fact, I don't expect anybody not to get it because we have applied them several times. Now, you go through this again. This time around, you are going to type equals to. After that, you reference the arguments where you have the date value. So we are referencing, let's say, this one. The same way we remove the $sign to leave the rows open. And then we now say equals to, then you now write dates. is a function, just like we use that and. Now, remember the format we choose. That format that we choose, if we are to convert it to the standard date format, that will be what? 20 what? Remember I said you must follow it this way. 2015, comma, 2015, comma. That too, I don't know whether that is, I think it was 2015, 2 and 4. So between 2 and 4, can we say, okay, it's even here. Can we say that the two should be months,
I think
right? The 2 should be months. Am I
I,
correct?
Yes, sir.
I think the 2 is months.
The 2 is
The
months.
4 is
So if we are
the
going year, month, so I will say what? Comma 2, comma what? 4. And then you close it. So let's see if that is going to give us the expected result. So let's go and choose a format for that. So let's say the format is this. I'm looking for a format that is different. Now let me use different format now. There are times you can use multiple fill. So you can go to fill effects and choose, maybe you want to use 2 colors. So you can say, okay, the first color starts here, the second color ends here. And then you choose from this variant, you can choose how you want the colors to be filled, and then you click. So you can use this method, or you can even choose from maybe more color. So let's say I'm using this, and then the text color, let me use this, and then click OK. Okay, at least the write-up is visible, right? So let's apply and see if we have it. Where is it? This is it. So we expected it to, so this is already having a format, but we are supposed to see the last one. So let's go and check the hierarchy of this. So I can just move this one up so to allow this one to implement. You go back to your manage rule. Now, this is the one that is highlighting the date that's supposed to meet that criteria. So what I'm going to do is to move this one up. Okay, good. Because so the issue is not, because it's already at the top. So it will have taken this format and shift it to the next action. So which means that it did not accept it. Now, this is what we are going to do. It's still the format issue. So I will delete this. I'm deleting this and type it to follow that standard, which was 2015. Remember, 2015 month was 2, right? Then day was 4. So just to confirm, so you can see that it worked. So the issue there was not that we didn't get it. It was it failed to acknowledge this date format. So that is why one of the things that is very important when somebody is entering dates, they should follow this format, because this is one of the challenges you can face where it's not working. Okay, somebody have a question?
Yes, sir. Please, sir, from this data set, the data aligned to the left, which means Excel is reading it as a text. If you see the one that you've applied conditional formatting to, it aligned to the right. Excel has recognized it as a date. So is there a way we can...
Okay. You are saying that if I align this way here now, like this, now, is that what you are saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Like, to Excel, this date is a text. Is there a way we can change it so that it will before conditioning the data set or before formatting, the date should be aligned to the right?
When you say alignment, but I align it now, it did not work, or that is not the alignment you are talking about. Are you talking
Look at
about the format? Come again. Let me.
look at this one that you did now. This one that you have, this one with the condition. You see that is moved to the right.
Yeah, because it moved to the right. It moved to the right, but if you look at the alignment you have here, it's not right. Look at the alignment. This is left. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is not right.
The wrong term. I'm not talking, it doesn't have anything to do with that alignment part. I'm saying that as long as it's to the of the data.
Yeah. And that is what I'm saying now. Your question will have been that the date format should be in this format before the application of this.
Yes,
not alignment, Abi?
Yeah, yes.
So that is what I said earlier, because if you are given a data set like this and the date format is not corresponding to the application of the function you want to use, you saw what I did first. Number one, I went to this where you are supposed to change the format, format cell, and then you come to date, and then you choose the format, and then you click OK. You understand? So this was the first way we did it. Then when I noticed that this one did not give me that configuration, then we went to the C panel to adjust it. Let me see, because sometime it might be from your system configuration. It's not changing after it has been imputed, because I've checked the two places. Okay, somebody have a question?
Okay,
Mr.
good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Though my network has been fluctuating, not really that I'm following, so maybe I have to go. But this other dates now is a number. Is it supposed to be by the left or by the right?
That means you are talking about alignment.
Because if I understand the question she's asking, that these numbers, are they supposed to be by the left or by the right before formatting? Because they are numbers.
What do you mean by number? Are these numbers? These are not numbers. These are dates. Now you can see the format.
Yes,
here. Look at it here. It's not number
Sir,
anymore.
you said what?
This is not number again. Look at the format you use here. This is date, sir. If it is number, it will have been here like this.
Okay.
You understand? So now this is what
Okay.
I was trying to show us some ways first before we look at it. So I said, when you have issue like this, the first thing you do is to change it to the right format, which we have done when we visited the date. We have moved it to the standard, but yet this format did not translate to this format that we type manually. So which means that when I was imputing it, I followed the same format. I used the same slash. But after typing it, it automatically changed to the one I reconfigured. But the issue we are having is that the existing value before this entry fails to take this format. Now, I'm saying that after you have tried it here, then you go back to the C panel. Then after the C panel, I'll do one more thing, trying to change the configuration. So what we are having is to format the date to be in this format that this function accepts. So if I go back to the number format, remember that this was the place where we change it. And this was the only one that we have here. We also have this one, YY. So sometimes it's from here that these settings are controlled. So if you try one, but I want to go back to this. I want to go back to this and click, and then let's see what is going to happen. Now, since it's phase 2, adjust, what I'm going to do now is to return everything back to number, to general first. But you can see that even as I'm taking everything back to general, you can see that it's this same one that followed the rule. Even these ones could not follow the rule. So what I'm driving at is that the format of the data before it gets to you is what is not changing at this point. Not that you have not done the right thing to convert it. Because here now, you can see that I'm trying to return it back to non-general. So what this will have given me now is something like this. Then I will now reinitiate it with what? The date. Or let me change it with this. So you can see that this has taken the format, which means that currently you have formatted the whole of this to dates. So the only thing is that these values are refusing to take the format. So maybe you can try it from your end there.
Okay, so me, I've done my own work, but
Okay.
my laptop enough, I would have snapped it. Yeah, what I want, my observation is that my own date was written as date and it was aligned to the right. Not that I did not do the alignment myself. It's just that it's on the right. So, but it worked.
The right, right? Okay. All right. So, okay, I've got what you are saying. Okay, so since it was for you, fine. So just to round up, please, you need to mute back Mr. Ziggy so that you're okay. So let me just round up by showing us the presets. You know, when I started, I said I don't want to emphasize on this one because all these are very simple to understand. Once you understand what we have done so far, you can even come here and interpret this yourself. For example, these are predefined rules with the assumption that any of them might go with your analysis task. For example, this time around, I'm going to work with, I think I should just show us that one before I conclude with that. Because the conditional formatting we have done so far is horizontal conditional formatting. What about if it is vertical conditional formatting? In other words, where you are dealing with only values in a column. So without highlighting across the entire word column. So how do we do that? That is vertical conditional formatting. So it's the same process. The only thing is that you are not going to highlight the entire data. You will only highlight only that particular value, column values. So let's take one question to address it. So let's say the question which should be our keyword, which could be our QCs, which could be our QCs, is format, total profits are greater than, what are the values we have here? Okay, let's say greater than 900,000. So in this case, we are dealing with just this. So like I said, the same procedure. You select only the values like this in that particular column. And then you go back to your home tab, the same thing we have been doing, and then define your rule as well. So we are still going with the last option. So I'll pick this. The same thing, I am leaving the row open, and then I will just say greater than 900,000. Then choose a format. Let's say I am choosing this. So you can see that it limited that painting to only what? So this is vertical what? Conditional formatting. Why the one we have been doing since, those one can be classified under horizontal. Now, to round up with the presets. Now, let's assume that you select the values under a particular column, and you want to highlight said rules under the first category, which talk about highlighting said rules. We have greater than, we have less than, we have between, we have equal. So you cannot choose. So let's say you want to highlight greater than, you put the value there. So the value I have is just like the one I did now. Let's say I'm working with what? 6,000. 6,000. And then I can come here and choose some of these preset formats. Then I can also choose the customize, just like we are doing. Once you click on this customize, it's going to take you to where we have been all this while, and probably choose your format the way you want it. So that is why I said all this one you can play around them in your own. You can play around them. We have top, bottom, depending on the analysis task you want to answer. So just know that all these ones, they are preset, predefined rules. The one that is not taxing is where you have to find for rule, which are the ones we have already covered. So that will bring us to the end of the topic. If there is no question, so I advise us to get different data and perform different analysis, you can twist them the way you want, provided it's making sense for you. Any question? There's no question. Close the line.
Please, sir,
Okay,
before
sir.
Okay, Gabriel, you can go on.
No, you can go on.
Okay, Mr. Pastor, I wanted to ask, this vertical conditional formatting, it works for only single conditions, so can we apply double condition to it?
The one we did, I will not try double condition.
I can't hear you, sir.
We are trying double condition now.
That is double column.
He's asking for double condition for vertical condition for vertical
For
format.
vertical formatting, the one you did for only the column.
For this one,
Yes.
whether it can work for both vertical and horizontal.
No, sir. Can double condition work for this one? This conditional formatting that you
Yes.
do for only... Okay.
Sorry. I get you.
Sir.
Yeah, of course. But you have to use that and. You have to use that and. So you can't go straight.
Okay, sir.
So you want
Thank
to
you.
select value greater than this and value less than this. You can just go on.
Okay.
So please let us practice. So the next class we are going to tomorrow. Thank God that we are able to finish this topic. Tomorrow we'll be looking at maybe good function. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Nice.
I'm not asking
Nice.
questions.
Thank you.
Gabriel has a
I'm not
question.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's okay. We'll call it tonight.
Gabriel,
No
ask now. Where is
problem.
it? Sure.
I thought we left already. So I want to ask, when will this replay be ready? Because the class I did not follow, my network was terrible today, and I did not even get anything about this class.
When will the video be ready?
Yes, let me go over it.
Yes, the video will be ready before 10 a.m. tomorrow. Before 10 a.m.
It's okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, sir.
much.